So it's another week, which means it's time for another rant. This time I'm ranting about John Krasinski's response to the backlash from selling some good news, ViacomCBS laying off 300 people despite not cutting executive pay, and of course we have to talk about all the craziness going on around the nation in response to the death of George Floyd. Let's get to the rant. So first up, let's talk about John Krasinski's response to the backlash he's receiving from selling some good news. Now, if you did not see last week's rant, in which I actually go in more detail about him actually selling some good news, I'll post a link down in the description below and also leave it in a card up above. But he basically gives reasons for selling some good news, which I kind of already feared is what the reason was to begin with. He didn't have time for it, which is fine. I don't see the problem in that. I think the way he handled things is the reason why he's getting such backlash. I tweeted about it. I still don't agree with it, but it is what it is. I think what should have happened was you started the show, you had a good premise behind it, you knew it was not going to last long, so I think what should have happened was after the 8 episodes of Some Good News, you should have just basically let it die and said, thank you for watching. I hope that it brought whatever to your hearts or got your mind off of COVID or whatever's going on in your life. And then after the dust had settled for a little bit, then let CBS say, good news, guys. We bought the rights to Some Good News and we're going to bring it back for you. That's probably what should have happened. Not you're doing some good news and then either right before the last episode or right after the last episode airs on YouTube, then you decide, oh, I'm going to sell some good news and make a profit off of it. I don't think you had to do it that way. I think you knew that you had all these viewers, you had all these subscribers. You could have just done that. Let the show end, give it some time, let CBS buy it from you, and then you're done. You know, he's going off saying, I just didn't have time. It was a lot of work. I'm not getting ready to do my other stuff, like going back to Jack Ryan. And I'm okay with those responses. Like I said, it's just the way he handled it. In response to him saying that it takes too much time, I totally agree with that. I don't know about you guys, if you're familiar with making YouTube videos. I'm, of course, just a small YouTuber. I'm starting out. And it takes a lot to make YouTube videos. Even just for this video, which is simply just ranting about topics, it's still going to take me a good time to basically find the topics, do the research, edit the video, do any type of thumbnails and images for it, and then social media for it. I mean, all that together, it takes time, and time that I may not actually have, but I still put into it. So I totally understand Some Good News, which had a lot more production value than what I'm doing. So I get that part. But like I said, in response to John Krasinski, I still think that what you should have done, John, was just do the show, let it die down for a while, and then let CBS announce that they're bringing it back, and then people would at least appreciated that and be excited about it and not be mad at you for basically selling out. And that leads us to our second topic, which is about ViacomCBS laying off employees. Now tell me how ViacomCBS is laying off employees after they just bought Some Good News. That doesn't sound good at all. So it was announced this week that ViacomCBS laid off a total of 300 employees. And that was a part of, and I quote, an ongoing integration with Viacom and to adapt to changes in our business related to COVID-19. I don't believe any of that. Kind of maybe I could see some of it related to COVID-19. I do realize that CBS is a network and they do rely on ad revenue. So maybe because there's not a lot of programming being made because of COVID, they're not able to get a lot of the ad revenue they got from before. So maybe that did play a factor in them being able to, having to lay off people. I can kind of see that. I think the biggest problem with this is they're not even cutting executive pay. I work part-time for a company and I got furloughed, and the company that I work for, they took pay cuts. They also furloughed, so that means they're not getting paid. Some executives are not getting paid. That way they were able to pay their employees. So I don't understand why CBS or ViacomCBS couldn't do the same thing. Now, most layoffs are affecting CBS News and CBS Entertainment parts of the business, which includes a lot of veteran anchors, reporters, and correspondents. But the current CEO of ViacomCBS, Bob Backlash, is estimated to make $31.5 million for his pay. And you're telling me that he couldn't take a pay cut? I mean, even the slightest pay cut could have paid those people's salaries and more. So as I said before, I don't think everything is totally related to Rona and this integration with Viacom. I think a lot of it had to do with, one, buying Some Good News, because as I reported last week, the Hollywood Reporter said that, there was a bidding war going on and that it was a rich amount that was paid for Some Good News. So if you don't have the money to pay your employees, but you have enough money to buy the rights to a show, come on. I also think the problem is they are trying to beef up CBS All Access. I tried to subscribe to CBS All Access just for the Star Trek content, but other than that, I don't see the value in CBS All Access. I'm sorry, I just don't. I think if they want to try to compete with some of the other online streamers such as Netflix, now HBO Max, and Hulu, and so on, and to do that, it's going to cost money, which they don't have. So I feel like the real reason why they had to lay off people was because Yeah, maybe they're not getting the ad revenue to pay for their other, properties and projects and stuff like that. But had you cut executive pay, you could have paid employees, and you could have also used that money to reimburse yourself from buying some good news, and also maybe help beef up CBS All Access. All right. So I'm not going to get into all the details about this story because I know it's been all over the news, and I'm sure a lot of y'all already know what's going on. I'm only really going to focus on the problems with how people are reacting to this and how they are acting in general. And if you don't know what I'm talking about the George Floyd protests and riots. Now, I totally agree that what happened to this guy was wrong. I've seen the video multiple times, and it's clear as day what happened, and I don't think that's right. I do agree that the cop was in the wrong, and I do agree that he should be prosecuted. What I don't agree with is how people are looting Targets, and clearly video is showing that they're going out with carts full of TVs and electronics. It's going to help the nation understand how people feel about Black Lives Matter, or any race matters at that point. That does not get your point across. I also don't agree with how they're basically vandalizing people's businesses, people's property, and hurting other people. I mean, I watched a video this morning of a guy getting attacked for basically defending his property. I mean, what's up with that? That's not necessary at all. Violence only begets more violence. That's why that saying has been there, and that's the truth about it. I'm a firm believer of nonviolent protest, and I think that you have all the right in the world to protest and get your message across. I don't believe that it's necessary that you have to riot and loot and hurt other people and even be disrespectful to people. There are people protesting that I've seen spit on cops. What did that cop in particular do to you? Nothing. They're doing their job. It is crazy how this stuff is spreading across the nation. I live in Texas, and I've already seen, clips of protests in Dallas, Houston, Austin, supposedly one happening in San Antonio. It's just crazy to me how people are massing in the streets and, trying to get a message across to people, but I feel like it's split. I feel like there's people that are actually doing what they're supposed to and saying, hey, this isn't right, we need to change the system, and then we have people that kind of like bandwagoners. Yeah, I'm gonna get a part of that group and I'm gonna do this, and that, and they're being violent towards other people, violent towards cops, they're destroying property. Those people don't share the same message. Those people are not for Black Lives Matter. Where I actually live, we actually had a situation not as severe as George Floyd. We had a situation where an individual, he happened to be African American, he ran a stop sign. He was pursued by cops to his home. I guess in the pursuit, he went inside his house. They had him come out. And when he came out, there were 6 cops. And they all had him at gunpoint. And they had him on the ground. And he was basically being subdued. But the situation got escalated because there's no need to have 6 cops with guns on a guy that's not armed. Things just kind of got out of control. No one was harmed, thank goodness. Other than a 91-year-old woman was knocked down, but it was kind of, I believe, her fault. But nonetheless, no one got killed. But it has kind of started a commotion based with what's going on in the backdrop of the nation with George Floyd. You have this situation in my town where they tried to hold a community session where the sheriffs and community leaders were explaining themselves about how the police conducted themselves. And we had this gentleman from Dallas who was part of an African-American National Coalition. And he was basically trying to stir up the crowd, and it was happening. I mean, basically, you had the sheriff's department and this crowd of people going back and forth towards each other, and they started getting rowdy, and basically they had to cancel the rest of the session. Now, I don't think that we're going to have any type of protest in my town because it's unfortunately too conservative, and I don't just think that's just going to happen. But I think that the clear message is still there. I have not seen a video come out. I'm sure it's happened. I have not seen a video come out of an African-American cop do this to another African-American. I haven't seen it. And as a white person, you're probably thinking, what do you have the right to be saying anything about it? Well, I personally have not had any type of prejudice happen to me as far as crime goes. 1, I don't put myself in those situations, so that's probably why it does not happen. But 2, I did grow up on a side of town that was basically made up of low-income Caucasians, African Americans, and Hispanics. So those were my people when I grew up. And I was a part of that group. I felt like I was a part of that group. I was a part of them. I didn't see skin color. I didn't see anything like that. They were my neighbors. They were my friends. Those are my people. So I may not be black, I may not be African American, I may not be Asian or Hispanic or whatever. That doesn't change the fact that what I think has happened is wrong, and I think that policy should be changed so it doesn't happen again. I just don't think that the writing is what you need to do. It does not get your point across at all. It deters the message. If I were to go walk with the people and protest the right message as a white person, and then I see you looting in the same protest, what good does it do? What good does it do at all for any of us to do that? It doesn't do any of us any good. We're going to spend more time focusing on what you're doing over there, looting and beating up people and hurting people, than us saying, hey, we want justice for George Floyd. That's what we want. What I hope happens is I hope that, of course, things will die down, because it's crazy to me to think that in the year 2020, a year of clarity, that's what I feel like it should be. All we have to remember so far is coronavirus and the George Floyd riots. I feel like that's crazy to me. It's super crazy, and that's not how it should be. My daughter just turned 1, and when she grows up, that's what I get to tell her what happened. The year you turn 1, this is all the craziness that happens. It's just not right. It's not right at all. I hope that policy changes. I hope that, I mean, that seems like the same old because it doesn't really change. But I feel like in the last, since March, we had an African-American girl die here, and someone's dying there, and someone's getting persecuted here, and it just doesn't need to be that way. And I just find it hard to believe that when people are supposed to be quarantined and we're supposed to be, more cautious around each other, that more of this violence is taking place and all this stuff is happening. It hurts my heart, and I just don't agree with it. I may not be the most articulate person in the world, but ultimately it just comes down to, we need to be better, guys. We need to be better towards each other. That's all there is to it. Let me know in the comments below about all the topics that I talked about. What are your feelings towards them? I'd love to hear them. Remember to hit that like button if you enjoyed my ranting. Make sure to hit that subscribe button notification bell if you want to see more videos. And I'll see you next time on The Mashup.